Welcome to MysticanIdentity, where we discover unity in every tradition. As I walk through my spiritual journey, learning from the wisdom of great teachers, I've been compelled to share these insights to guide and inspire others just like I've been inspired. And every step on the path reveals new wisdom, insights shared by great teachers and mystics of the past. So please join me as I pass on their teachings in a hope to inspire our journeys together. So I just finished a fantastic book, an amazing book with a lot of reflections and meditations. And it's a very short, easy read with chapters that are broken up into what I would call little morsels. So they fit perfectly into like a 15-minute break or a lunch break, or in the morning before you go to work, or even at night before you go to bed. And this book is called How to See Yourself as You Really Are by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Perhaps you've heard of it or even read it yourself. And the portion that really resonated with me and I was compelled to share with others is the chapter Feeling Empathy. It begins with a quote from Chandrakirti. Hail to loving concern for transmigrating beings, powerless like a bucket traveling up and down a well, through initially exaggerating oneself, I, and then generating attachment for things. This is mine. And this is the Dalai Lama's expansion on that quote. Even though it is necessary in the beginning to have a strong will in order to develop love and compassion, will is not sufficient to develop these altruistic attitudes limitlessly. It is important to join the practice of love and compassion with the practice of insight. Even if you seek to help somebody out of concern, without insight, you can't be very clear about what benefit will come of your efforts. A combination is needed. A good human heart as well as a good human brain. And with these two working together, we can achieve a lot. In the stanza cited at the beginning of this chapter, Chandrakirti shows how insight can deepen love through understanding the process by which we suffer. He compares this process to the way a bucket moves up and down a well. How are beings born from life to life similar to a bucket in a well? Well, there are 6 similarities. Number 1, just as the bucket is bound by a rope, so beings are constrained by counterproductive emotions and actions driven by them. Number 2, just as the movement of the bucket up and down the well is run by an operator, so the process of cyclic existence is run by an untamed mind, specifically through mistakenly believing that a self exists inherently, and then mistaking the nature of mine. Number 3, just as the bucket travels up and down the well over and over, so sentient beings ceaselessly wander in the great well of cyclic existence, from the uppermost states of temporary happiness to the lowest states of temporary pain. And number 4, just as it takes great exertion to draw the bucket up, but it descends easily, so beings have to expend great effort to draw themselves upward to a happier life, but easily descend into painful situations. Number 5, just as a bucket does not determine its own movements, so the factors involved in shaping a person's life are the results of past ignorance, attachment, and grasping. In the present, these same factors are continually creating more problems for our future lives, like waves in the ocean. And number 6, just as the bucket bumps against the walls of the well when it ascends and descends, so sentient beings are battered day by day by the suffering of pain and change, and by being caught in processes beyond their control. Through this simile, Chandrakirti provides insight into the details of the process driving cyclic existence. First, apply this information about cyclic existence to yourself so that you can understand your own plight and develop a strong intention to transcend this dynamic of recurring problems. If your mind has not been affected by thinking about the way you yourself wander in an uncontrolled cycle of self-ruin, then when you reflect on the process of suffering in other sentient beings, then you won't find their suffering so unbearable that you would feel the need to extricate them from this morass. Consider this. Just as a bucket in a well is bound by a rope, so I am constrained by counterproductive emotions and actions driven by them. Just as the movement of the bucket up and down the well is run by an operator, so the process of my cyclic existence is run by my untamed mind, specifically through mistakenly believing that I inherently exist and that mine inherently exists. So just as a bucket travels up and down the well over and over, so I ceaselessly wander in the great well of cyclic existence, from the uppermost states of temporary happiness to the lower states of temporary pain. And just as it takes great exertion to draw the bucket up, but it descends so easily, so I have to expend great effort to draw myself upward to a happier life, but easily descend to painful situations. Just as a bucket does not determine its own movements, so the factors involved in shaping my life are the results of past ignorance, attachment, and grasping. In the present, these factors are continually creating more problems for my future lives, like waves in the ocean. Just as the bucket bumps against the walls of the well when it ascends and descends, so I am battered day by day by the suffering of pain and change, and by being caught in processes beyond my control. So therefore, from the depths of my heart, I should seek to get out of this cyclic round of suffering. Now that you've identified the mechanics of misery in your own situation, you can extend this insight to other sentient beings suffering the same miseries. However, for your response to be love and compassion, it's not sufficient to just know how other beings suffer. You must also have a sense of closeness with them. Otherwise, the more you know about your enemy's suffering, the happier you might be. As Tsongkhapa says, in the world when suffering is seen in an enemy, not only is it not unbearable, but you delight in it. When persons who have neither helped nor harmed you are seen to suffer, you will, in most cases, pay no attention to their suffering. This reaction is caused by not having a sense of closeness with respect to those persons. But when you see friends suffer, it's unbearable in the sense that you want to do something about it, and the degree of unbearability is just as great as your sense of closeness to them. Therefore, it's essential that you generate a sense of strong cherishing and affection for sentient beings. True love and compassion rise on the basis of respecting others. This feeling of empathy is achieved by recognizing that you and all others, whether friends, enemies, neutral parties, share a central aspiration by wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, even if you view happiness and suffering differently. Also, it helps to be aware that, over the course of countless lifetimes, everyone at some time has been your mother or your closest friend. With this prerequisite sense of closeness and intimacy with everyone in place, insight into how sentient beings wander powerlessly in cyclic existence serves to heighten love and compassion, and in the presence of intimacy and insight, the factors of love, compassion, and a desire to help others arise without difficulty. From here, the Dalai Lama puts in a meditative reflection. And it's a wonderful reflection. I would suggest people read this book and read that, because from here I went back to the bucket and applied the extending the insight to others. Bring a friend to mind and cultivate this perspective. Just as a bucket in a well is bound by a rope, so my friend is constrained by counterproductive emotions and actions driven by them. Just as the movement of a bucket up and down a well is run by an operator, so the process of my friend's cyclic existence is run by their untamed mind, specifically through mistakenly believing that they inherently exist and that theirs inherently exists. Just as a bucket travels up and down the well over and over, so my friend ceaselessly wanders in the great well of cyclic existence, from the uppermost states of temporary happiness to the lower states of temporary pain. Just as it takes great exertion to draw the bucket up, but it descends so easily, so my friend has to expend great effort to draw themselves upward to a happier life, but also easily descend to painful situations. Just as a bucket does not determine its own movements, so the factors involving my friend's life are the results of past ignorance, attachment, and grasping. which I call programming. In the present, these same factors are continually creating more problems for my friends' future lives, like waves in the ocean. Just as a bucket bumps against the walls of the well when it ascends and descends, so my friend is battered day by day by the suffering of pain and change, and by being caught in processes beyond their control. Therefore, from the depths of my heart, I should seek to get them out of this cyclical round of suffering. In the end, the Dalai Lama summarizes this chapter. One by one, bring to mind individual beings. First friends, then neutral persons, and then enemies, starting with the least offensive. And repeat these reflections with them. It'll take months and years, but the benefit of this practice will be immense. So thank you for joining me on this journey today. And I gotta be honest, I don't have this all figured out. I'm certainly not perfect. And this is a journey of learning, putting teachings into practice, making mistakes, and getting back up to try again. My hope is to share what I'm discovering with others who may be walking a similar path. And if this resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps us all stay connected as we explore all this together. And remember, the wisdom of the universe is always within you, with love and light. This is MysticanIdentity, where we discover unity in every tradition. Wishing you and your loved ones all the best. Bye-bye.